This is Quadratic Cumulative Review Part 2, beginning at number 8. Number 8 says, which of the following quadratic functions has the real solutions of x equals 1/2 and x equals -6? Remember, by solutions, this is the same thing as x-intercepts. To find my x-intercepts, I'm going to graph each of these in my calculator and see which one gives me x-intercepts of 1/2 and -6. Starting with choice A, 2x squared plus 11x minus 12. I can see here that my negative x-intercept is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's past -6, so choice A cannot be my correct answer. I'm going to try choice B, because it's a simple change. I just changed the last part to -6. So I delete and change it to -6. 2x squared plus 11x minus 6. And take a look at my graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one looks like it could be correct, but I'm going to use my calculator just to make sure. Remember, to find any of our special features, we do second, trace. Another word for solutions or x-intercept is zeros. So I need option 2. Start with your cursor on the x-intercept or the 0 that you want to find, or just get as close as you can. Then we go to the left 3, 1, 2, 3, enter. To the right 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, enter, enter. This tells me I have an x-intercept at x equals -6. And I'm going to do the same thing with the x-intercept on the right, just to make sure. Second, trace, 0. I'm going to take my cursor all the way to that x-intercept as close as I can get it. To the left 3, 1, 2, 3, enter. To the right 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this tells me I have a 0 at 0.5. So we have -6. 1/2 as a decimal is the same thing as x equals 0.5. So our correct answer is B. Number 9. The graph below represents the parent function f of x equals x squared. Which graph best illustrates the graph of the equation y equals a times f of x plus d if a is -1/4 and d is 3. So first, I'm going to rewrite this with the numbers in it. It tells us that a is -1/4, f of x is x squared, we're told that at the beginning of the question, and d is 3. If I think about what I know about transformations, the +3 means that my graph goes up 3. So just looking at that, I'm going to look for a graph that goes, it was a 1/4, up 3. Choice A, 1, 2, 3. That looks good so far. Choice B, 1, 2, 3. C goes down 3, so our answer cannot be C. And D also goes down 3. Okay, the -1/4, the negative tells me that my graph has to go down, open downward. It's a reflection. And the 1/4, since 1/4 is smaller than 1, this is a vertical compression. So it's like we're taking our parabola from top and bottom and squishing it down. This should make our graph wider. A is narrow. B is really wide. So my first thought is to choose B, but I'm going to double check in my calculator just to make sure. Y equals, I'm going to type in the equation that I wrote, 1/4 x squared plus 3. But I forgot the negative. I'm going to go back, second, insert, negative. Okay, this looks about right, because if I look at my graph, choice B has an x-intercept at a little past +3 and a little past -3. Looking at my graph on my calculator, I have a little past +3 and a little past -3. B is the correct answer. Number 10. Which of the following statements describes the appearance of the graphs of y equals negative 3x squared relative to the graph of y equals x squared? So relative to the parent function. The negative means we have a reflection, so our graph opens down. Any number that's inside the parentheses is a horizontal change. So this has to be horizontal, and horizontal, everything inside the parentheses is opposite. So any number that is bigger than 1 is actually a horizontal shrink or compression. So we're taking this parabola from each side and we're squishing it down. We are making it more narrow. Flip the page, take a look at number 11. The graph below represents the parent function y equals x. So this is the linear parent function. If the y-intercept is changed to negative 2, I'm going to make that change on my graph, and the slope is changed to negative 1. So I'm going down 1 and to the right 1. Which graph represents these values? Okay, so I need to make sure that I have a negative slope and a y-intercept of negative 2. A is a positive slope, C is a positive slope. On D, the y-intercept is at 0. The only one we're left with is B. It has a y-intercept of negative 2, and it's going down 1 over 1. Our correct answer is B. Number 12. Which of the following describes the relationship between the two lines with the equation shown below? Line 1. F of x equals x. This is our parent function. Line 2. F of x equals, y equals f of x minus 7. Remember, f of x is just x here, the parent function. So this minus 7, if we think about our transformations, causes our graph to go down 7 spaces. Notice that the slope is the same. It did not change. Choice A says line 2 is parallel and 7 units above line 1. Parallel means we have the same slope, which our lines do have the same slope, so that is true. And line 2 is also 7 units above line 1. We said that minus 7 means it goes down, so A cannot be correct. Line 2 is parallel to line 1 and 7 units to the right. We know that minus 7 outside the parentheses made our graph move down. B is not correct. The y-intercept of line 2 is equal to the y-intercept of line 1. Our graph went down 7. They cannot be equal. The y-intercept of line 2 is 7 units less than the y-intercept of line 1. This is true. So, and notice that in A and B, it did say they were parallel, and that's true. However, the rest of the statement wasn't true. So that's why we had to cross off A and B. Moving on to number 13. The graph of line L is shown. Write the equation of the line that is parallel to L and translated down 3 units. Parallel means that our slope is the same. Translated down 3 units means our y-intercept goes down 3. Okay, so my y-intercept of this graph is at negative 1. I'm going to go down 3 and put my new graph. My new y-intercept is negative 4. And then I need to find my slope. My slope of this line is positive, going up 1, 2, and over 1. So our slope is positive 2. Since we have the same slope, that means the slope of our new line has to also be positive 2. We know that y equals mx plus b, so y equals 2x minus 4. The graphs of the linear functions f and g are shown on the grid. Okay, I'm going to make f red and g yellow. Which function is best represented by the graph of g? Okay, so function g, I'll keep my colors kind of similar. The y-intercept of g is at the origin, so our y-intercept is 0. It's a positive slope going up 1 and over 3. So our equation for line G, y equals mx plus b, 1/3 x plus 0. Remember, we don't really need to have that plus 0 on the end, so we can just write our equation as y equals 1/3x. Write the factored form of the equation. X squared plus 24x plus 144. Okay, I need to factor. So if this was multiple choice, I could graph and see which of my answer choices was the same, but this is not, so we actually do have to factor. I'm going to set up my box. Remember, the first thing goes in the first box, the last thing goes in the last box. And then to find my other two boxes, this is where I do my product and my sum. So product is the first times the last, 144x squared. The sum is the middle number. If I think about things that add up to be 144, I have 1 times 144. 2 times something. 2 times 72. 3 times 48. So far, none of these are adding up to be 24, so it looks like I need to get bigger. So I'm going to skip ahead to 6. 144 divided by 6 is 24. Let's try 8. 8 times 18. Okay, if we try 8 plus 18, that makes 26. We're getting closer. Okay, 144 divided by 9. 9 times 16 makes 144, and 9 plus 16 is 25, so not quite. Okay, 10, I could do 11. 11 does not work. 144 divided by 12. 12 times 12 makes 144. And guys, some of you might know this off the top of your head, but I'm just modeling this so that you know how to go through and find these pieces. 12 plus 12 is also 24. So these are our magic numbers. We fill in with positive 12x and positive 12x. We're factoring, so then we are looking for what each column has in common. In the first column, they both have an x. The GCF between 12 and 144 is 12. And if you struggle with finding that, remember you can do math, number, GCD, 12, 144. And it gives us the GCF is 12. Okay, going the opposite direction, we have the same thing. Both of these have an x, and the greatest common factor between 12 and 144 is 12. So I have x plus 12 times x plus 12. However, since these are both the same, a better way to write this would be x plus 12 squared. If I'm checking this in my calculator, I can put in my original, x squared plus 24x plus 144. And my answer, x plus 12 squared. If I look at the graph, oh, I only see part of it, but I only see one thing, so that's good. And I can double check by looking at the table. My tables match everywhere, so I did this correctly. And that's how I could check it if it was multiple choice. Flip over to number 16. Raphael wants to solve the quadratic equation 2x squared plus 11x minus 6 by graphing. Which graphing method could he use to solve this equation? First of all, if we are going to graph, we need to be in standard form. It needs to equal 0. So on this equation, I would add 6 to both sides because this is negative. 2x squared plus x, negative 11 plus 6 is negative 5. So I'm going to cross off any of our answer choices that don't have minus 5 on the end. Okay, choice B says to find the x-intercepts of this equation. Choice D says find the x-coordinates of the lowest point. So what we need to know here is what we mean when we say solve. Remember, to solve or find the solutions is the same as finding the x-intercepts. The lowest point is the vertex. So we need to find the x-intercepts. That would be choice B. That is the solutions.